I would imagine that there was some part of like imposter syndrome where you're thinking, man, I'm so young, I maybe look young as well, and now I'm taking on this leadership role. On one hand, yes, you just like, you are the authority figure, you have to take charge. But on the other hand, when you kind of go home at night and you look at yourself in the mirror, there can be a little bit of self-doubt or maybe questioning yourself. Did you go through that at all as a really young head coach? Just talk about being a head coach at such a young age.
Yeah, yeah. So I will tell you, my imposter syndrome started the day that we met. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm a full-time, college coach. This was always my dream. And the reason I'd searched out these schools in Texas to go visit is I felt like I had to inundate myself with information that the students never saw through me, guys that were actually 2 years age difference from me. And so, yes, and I actually hit that at every stage, then moving over from defense and never coaching defense before, and then as a coordinator, and then as a head coach. And so I think the thing with that is, all these like cliche, catchy sayings that you hear people say, it's about relationships, and I'm relational. So that's really easy for me, and probably more of an extrovert, people would say. But I'm a 100% big believer that people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if I can just express, the little things as far as, hey, how is your, girlfriend doing? How's your boyfriend doing? How's your brother, your sister, your dog? And like, remember their names, that people are going to buy into me and believe in what I'm doing. Now, when I go out and ask them, to perform X to make our team better, they know that I have their best interest at heart. And so I think sometimes we skip over that a lot, to try to prove, the imposter syndrome, that, hey, I know more than what I do. And so I think nobody's ever told me this directly, but I think in my situation, and I'm a big believer in this, what I think is absolutely vital is you got to grow where you're planted, but also you got to get involved. And so if people don't know you on campus, whether it's middle school, high school, college, then it's going to be hard for people to go to bat for you and fight for you. So whether that's, volunteering and being on committees, or, involved in organizations that are outside your particular sport or your particular department, the more relationships and allies you can build, just the better off that you have the opportunity to advance within the system, for a lack of better words, that you might be in. And so going back to that imposter syndrome thing is that, when you're trying to move up, you want people to say, oh yeah, that's a good hire, right? So everybody wants to make sure that they make a splash hire, or make sure that they don't miss. The more people that support that decision, the better off, the person hiring is. And so I think it's just super important that a lot of us don't do enough in our profession, is get outside of our box of, whether it's athletics or if you're in some other department or business. Hey, are you well known? And not just kind of being fake networker, but, are you genuinely, there to help?
Yeah. It's interesting because you were just talking about the simplicity of communication. Mm-hmm. And, I love that saying as well. People don't know how much people don't care how much you know until They know how much you care. And I think that as a young coach, I can relate to what you just said, where it's like, I thought I had to have the answer to everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought I had to make up for the fact that I wasn't a high level college player or a pro player. And in reality, very few people even care about that, or even expect you to have all the answers. And you don't really kind of learn that until later and as you mature. And that's what I'm kind of hearing from you, is kind of like almost this simplistic nature of being a good human being, being a good person, being the type of person that you would want in your own program, and kind of emulating that and using that as an example, for what you want your program to stand for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, I appreciate those kind words, but the thing about it is it's all about playing hard and building relationships. And I think the hard part of that, going back to it, is I've seen, statistics and data, and you don't know what's peer reviewed and, truly and fully out there, been through the full scope of, a survey. But, the common theme that I hear is that, students or even employees don't really know the impact you had on them till 3 years after they're removed from your presence. And so, what's hard as coaches sometimes is you're not going to get that instant feedback. And then also as a young coach, where you draw the line of friend and mentor or friend and leader, not knowing that you're going to get instant gratification from that relationship and just being able to hold on to it. And so something that I've done that can seem maybe narcissistic, I guess, but it's been really important to me and it's helped me grow as I talk about invisible paychecks a lot with our staff, that when a student comes back to visit you, or when they write you a letter, they sent you a text or whatever, you cannot just gloss over that and not celebrate that as a win, because as a mentor, you're striving for that when they're with you. And then now when they're gone, we're not going to acknowledge that. Like, we don't give enough, attention to that kind of stuff. And so one thing that my dad encouraged me to do when I was a player and coming up is like, hey, write down all the things you liked or didn't like, and then try to implement that when you're younger, when you knew you're going to go into the coaching deal. And then I basically took that a step further with anytime that I get like notes or messages from former students or people on campus or whatever, hey, Hunter, thank you for being involved in this, or thank you for doing this, or you made an impact on this. I take it, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, but I take it, I hole punch it, and I put it in a binder and I date it. And so I've got about 3 binders filled up right now of, in chronological order of things that I just flip through when I'm having a bad day, or I start to question, why am I doing this? Or it's taking up so much time, that I can go back and flip. And people who shared were willing to take time out of there to share that they were thankful for me. And it's been huge. And that's what I mean by an invisible paycheck, as far as being able to say, okay, what are we doing this for? What is the impact? And I just think so much, like I said, it can seem maybe kind of narcissistic, but it's helped me and my spirits, or else, I would have just thrown that away and not really thought about it again.
Yeah, I don't think you should be embarrassed about that at all, Hunter. Because I'll share with the audience as well that I do something very similar.
Right.
And I screenshot my texts, and I screenshot those emails, and I have a folder that I keep on my digital organizer. That's the exact same thing. And I think like this also goes back to another piece, which is kind of self-leadership. Mm-hmm. and managing yourself, managing your own emotions, because I can relate to exactly what you just said, where like we all have days, regardless of whether you're the leader on campus or the highest performer on a team. Like, we all have those days where we're just not feeling connected to our mission or our purpose, and reviewing the impact that you have, the influence that you've had in the past, and even still to this day. And really those small wins really can go a long way towards building confidence. And that's what I personally use it for. So I'll stand right there with you, man. And maybe it is a little narcissistic, but it's also beneficial to review those on a periodic basis to kind of reconnect you to your work and help create that clarity for why we do what we do.